Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakdown Podcast YouTube channel. My name's Corey, and with me once again to help me break down Miss Marvel, it's Vic.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back.
Before we get started, we do want to let you know we have a show we do every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's at twitch.tv/MillerKing_51. You can find the link in the description down below. Please come by and join the chat and, give us your comments, your thoughts, your feelings. With whatever we're talking about at the time. Currently, we're going through, we're doing the current season of The Flash as well as Obi-Wan. So stop by and have some fun with us. And if you can't check out the show live, we do have episodes available on Apple Podcast as well as Spotify. Just search the Breakdown Podcast. And while you're doing all that, please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Give us a thumbs up and hit the bell for notifications when we do put up new videos, because all of that helps us out, and we would appreciate it. So without further ado, Vic, let's break it down.
All right, sir. We are in a new Disney Plus show, and that show is called Miss Marvel. For those of you who don't know, Miss Marvel is a character that has been around for a bit. She is a fangirl of Captain Marvel. And in the comic book series, she writes fan fiction about Miss Marvel. And through that fan fiction, she literally ends up becoming a superhero. In the comic books, just for a little bit of background, the character's, origin story is different but the same as the story in the TV show. And when I say that, because she was trying her hardest to get to a big party, which in this case it's Avenger Con.
Avenger Con set in a warehouse near you.
Well, did you recognize where the warehouse was?
Yeah, it was probably in a shipping yard somewhere.
No,
because that's about the area that it looked like.
It was the actual bunker that they used in Captain America. And in Infinity Endgame, where they went back in time, or Infinity War, whatever. When they went back and they went into the bunker to get the pin particles.
So you mean government property?
Yeah, but it's been closed down. They
government property.
But they rented it to have Avenger Con. That's what you do,
right?
Why wouldn't you? I mean, it's a televised, nationally thing. If they were doing it illegally, the government would have known about it.
No, I'm not saying that.
But anyway, Mr. Naysay. Anyway, but that's where they were holding Avenger Con, was in the original warehouse where the Avengers, where Captain America was created. But in the comic books, she is trying to fit in with all of the teenage kids, and she ends up going to this big party. A lot of the storyline parallels with that, except they changed the party to Avenger Con. She does a lot of the same things in the comic book, where she is trying to talk her parents into letting her go. Her parents don't want her to go, obviously, and they do a lot of those same hit those same points. So it is fairly close to the comic book run, to give you kind of an idea of the origin story. Now, where it does diverge a lot is what her abilities are. She is basically what the Marvel world calls an Inhuman, because while she's leaving that party, she ends up getting a Terrigen bomb goes off, and she ends up getting misted with the Terrigen, which is what changed in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., gave all of the Inhumans their powers, and in the actual Inhuman thing. And basically what it is the Kree were doing experiments on humans way back when, and that DNA had kind of gone dormant in most people, but when they get affected by that Terrigen mist, it brings that Inhuman / mutant type DNA back to the forefront, and then gives them abilities.
That would have been much better if you used that arc, because then you start to bring in the Inhumans, which they attempted to bring into the MCU. The show utterly failed. Right. I'm not exactly sure why. I didn't watch the show. I've sort of wanted to go back and watch it just out of curiosity. Mm-hmm. But we saw with Doctor Strange, we saw Black Bolt, who is one of the Inhumans. So he's obviously not off the table to be introduced into the normal MCU
Right.
because that was an alternate version. So I think this could have been a great way to start that, at least to
Right.
get the ball rolling, because obviously they've said, depending on who you ask, Agents of Shield is not canon.
Well,
I
at
don't
this
I
point,
don't
it
know.
could be because of all of the multiverse craziness going on.
Yeah, I'm not really sure whether it is or not. We had two Inhumans
Mm-hmm.
on that show. They weren't called Inhumans, but that's what they
Oh, there
were.
were more than two.
Oh yeah, I guess that's
Everybody in that compound where her mother was, they were all Inhumans.
That's true. That's true.
And May's husband was an Inhuman.
But even still, you have the opportunity to do that and bring it back in.
Right.
But they chose her finding a bracelet that her grandma had sent over, and that's what did it. That's what gave her powers. So that's where we get the difference from the show in the comics.
Kind of. Also, there's a couple other things that are in there too. I feel like some of the storylines. So this show and this episode is going to be kind of different because it's an introduction to a character that literally I don't think anybody knows much about. It's
because a lot of people didn't read the comics,
right? And the comic book has a very good following, and she's been in a lot of the cartoons that have come out in the past of the Young Avenger cartoons and things like that. So she is an established.
And I think that's only recent. From what I understand, the comics really didn't sell all that well, but Marvel or the MCU and Marvel and Disney, they're wanting to push different characters. And so they're basically trying to put her in different stuff. They had recently a new Avengers game came out on PS4 or 5, maybe both, and she was like the main character. So obviously they're wanting to push her in here and get her known.
They're putting her because she's going to be in the movie, so they have to introduce her to the general public. Is what they're trying to do without.
Right.
They're trying to do it without having to go through a whole story arc in the movie to explain who she is. So they've been injecting her into different IPs in order to give people a chance to subtly learn who she is. So, because even in the video game, her original powers is what she has. It's not the same as what's on this show. So, with that being said, it's not even that it's recent because the cartoons have been out for at least 2 or 3 years now that she's been involved in, and the whole and even the same thing with America Chavez, who was in Doctor Strange thing. She was introduced in the same way. She's been in the same show, so it's a parallel thing that they're doing to try to get people to know who they are and understand who they are. But the changes that they made in this, it's just a teeny bopper show. I don't think it's really designed to be something that people are going to be really interested in. I think it's just designed to give people a chance to know who she is, so they don't have to explain her in the movies. And that's kind of the track that they've gone on. So you find out that she's a big daydreamer, that she's a good student. She's got a group of friends behind her, as well as an enemy that they talk about. And with that, I forgot what the girl's name. I think it's Zoe. She ends up being. She's like the social. What do they call it? The influencer. And in every new show recently that I've seen that has anything to do with a teenager, there's one kid in that thing that's like the ultimate influencer of the whole school, and everybody wants to be like her, and that's what this character is. And in the comic,
I'm glad I'm not in high school anymore.
Right, having to keep up with that crap. In the comic books, Zoe is also a character in there, and when she manifests her powers, she saves Zoe from dying, basically. And then they parallel that in this when she when Zoe gets hit by the giant Thor hammer and thrown around, she ends up saving her the same way.
She should have probably been hurt a lot more than she was.
Probably. And she had a death grip on that hammer. I'm not sure how she didn't fall off that hammer on the upswing.
I don't know what that thing was made of. Paper mache, metal, I don't know. But either way, that's going to be a hell of an impact when you're in between it and the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just silly. But yeah, she was also in the costume contest they were having.
Right.
it was a Captain Marvel cosplay contest.
Well, if you listen beforehand, they were doing different hero cosplays, because they talked about having a Hulk cosplay contest. They talked about having a Captain America cosplay contest.
Okay. I didn't hear that line.
Yeah.
But I will say this. What she was wearing, and I'm glad this character, Miss Marvel, I don't even remember what her real name is, but
Kamala Khan.
Her friend, Kamala, I'm sorry. Her friend points out that it's not even accurate, and I was like, I'm glad he said that, because I was going to call that out.
What, for Zoe?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was just trying to be sexy, Captain Marvel.
Well, and she had a mask on,
right?
And that's not what Captain Marvel wore. Here's the problem I have with this whole obsession and this show with Captain Marvel. Not because I hated the movie. That's neither here nor there.
Okay.
It's the fact that in the MCU, Captain Marvel got her powers, and nobody saw that. She was then off Earth for years.
Mm-hmm.
Still nobody saw her. When she came back during the battle in Endgame, she destroyed the ship, had the battle, took off again. Nobody in the public saw her. So how would they have any idea what she wore? Not only that, hold on, I know you're going to start to say something. There was also pictures of her in Kamala's room of her pose, of Captain Marvel posing and stuff. When did she do all of that? Because she has never been seen by the public. So I can understand that maybe the story got out that she came in, but at the same time, how do they have any idea? Because the Avengers aren't going, oh, this is what she wore. I got pictures of her. Here's what she looked like. It doesn't make any sense as far as the MCU goes. Now, your rebuttal.
Okay, sir. It's real simple. If you think about this, if you think about what the world that they're talking about, you're going strictly off of what's going on in the movies. These people in this world exist in other times besides the exact moment we're seeing in the movie. They're doing stuff in between that time. We see her fly off, we see her leave, but she went to Iron Man's funeral. That didn't happen the next day.
She may have gone to Iron Man's funeral, but she wasn't wearing her suit.
It doesn't matter. The point is people,
and nobody saw that either.
People saw what happened. They know Iron Man died. This whole thing. So think about this. In war, right? The news gets information from people that were around, from satellites, from news media centers. Information gets out there. She's been seen. Just because we saw her fly in at that time, she came back to Earth, doesn't mean she just left Earth completely. We don't even know the time frame between everything that happened from the end of Endgame to the end of that episode, the end of that movie. So the time between...
He left after Tony's funeral.
How do you know that?
Because it was an Endgame.
How do you know? What do you mean it was an Endgame? When
they showed her leaving.
When? What was the time frame between all that happened and she left?
Well, I can't give you the exact time frame.
Exactly.
She's not walking around going to the mall.
That's exactly it. When she comes back, she's a superhero that does stuff in this world. She's a superhero that, though she's been gone for a while and she just came back, doesn't necessarily mean she just left. This is based after the comic book runs things. And in the comic books, she is terrestrial a lot. She comes back to Earth on a regular basis.
In the comics, that's fine. You've canonized the fact that she does that. In the MCU, you have not.
This story, this story has gotten out. You can't think that this entire battle for saving Earth and bringing back all the people that were blipped was completely incognito. Nobody knew about that battle. Nobody saw what happened. You don't think that, like, when the government got wind of what was happening, that battle didn't happen in the 10 minutes that it happened on the show. So on the movie. So, like, there are a million different ways that this could have gotten out, because even with the battle in New York, like, they don't talk about it a lot, but it happened. And you only see it in the movies, but it all happened. And the destruction that happened had to have been fixed. You didn't see that happen, but you know it happened because now it's fixed. So you can't dismiss the time frames between what we saw in the movies and the actions of what happened in the movies with everything else in that world, because that world still exists and those things still go on. So for her to have found out about what happened at the and again, it was animated, so like somewhere in there, because they talk about Endgame in Captain Falcon. They talk about the loss of why he's replacing Captain America. Like all of those things all happen. So like,
no, I understand that.
Then that's what she builds it off of, and she's a fangirl, so she's gonna sleuth out as much information as possible.
Just one last thing. What I'm saying is, Captain Marvel, when she left, she said, "I'm going to help other planets because they already have Avengers
at the end
here."
of that
and
movie,
so she was gone.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end of that,
it hasn't
movie,
returned.
At the end of that movie, right? That's like during that movie is when she left. At the end of her movie, she left, right? And she went to help other people. But I guarantee you, she's been back here or there, and it's may have been an extended period of time. But the girl knows who she is because she knows of what happened in Captain Marvel. She's a fangirl of that character, of that person. So she's been following everything that she can. She probably knows. If you get a super fan, who's somebody you know way more information about than you should, or than most people? Like give me a wrestler. Give me a wrestler that you know a lot about, information wise, personally wise, like those things.
Honestly, I understand what you're trying to do, but honestly, I don't think that way anymore. Maybe 15-year-old me would.
It doesn't matter, but she's 15 years old. But that's my point. She's 15 years old. You had someone that you looked up to, that you thought was like a hero, that you really liked because of what he did in the entertainment venue that you enjoy, wrestling. I'm just using it as, and I don't know if that's what it is, but 15-year-old you was like, holy shit, Randy Savage is the coolest person in the world, and probably knew, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, you followed, and you saw Randy Savage on TV on Mondays or whenever Raw was on. You saw Randy Savage, but he existed from Tuesday to Sunday. You know what I mean? Like, he's still there. You may not have known everything he did in that time frame, but as a fanboy, you knew a lot. It's the same thing for her. That's all it is.
All right.
That's my point.
Moving on.
Anyway.
Moving on.
So her parents, she tries to sucker her parents in. Oh, let's not forget about her best friend, because every one of these young superheroes has a best friend. Her best friend. So
very technological.
Of course, he is the Q to her 007. Except he just helps her make her cosplay stuff. I mean, technically, he's just a kid that can solder. He can put things together.
He can spray paint stuff.
He can airbrush, which, mind you, is a talent. That is not easy to do. I'm sorry.
That is a talent, but that wasn't airbrushing. It might as well have been a can of spray paint.
It doesn't matter.
But I digress.
Yes, you can't nitpick that. Otherwise, you're gonna have to nitpick everything you ever watch.
It's the dialogue I'm nitpicking.
But
go
anyway,
ahead.
and again, it comes to, especially since we see cosplay on a regular basis, at least once a year. We see how these things do. Your daughter is into cosplay a little bit, isn't she? Like, you see how much energy and how excited these kids get about doing their cosplay and then showing it off. Like, that felt real to me in that context, for the two of them working on this cosplay for her, because it's just what it is. That's how these kids are when it comes to that, and building those things and making something that it didn't look bad. Like, it was like the fake hair thing and like the lights that they put in, like, it didn't look bad at all. So she comes up with this plan, and it's very I can't think of what there was a show on Nickelodeon my son used to watch, and it always had like this, it was like a live action show, and then the kid would like explain what he was about to do or what he did, and it would always do it as an animated
thing. Declassified Life.
Is that what it is? Had the kid in the wheelchair. Maybe. I think it was. Is that it? Okay. He would always do that, and that's what that kind of reminded me of, was when watching that with my son. And that's like her explanation of everything. And there was like, she was talking about steampunk, what you call them. It's like all of these like possible what if crossover type things, and they even went to the zombie Captain Marvel as like the explanations of like what they could do. And it was just in general, I think that the way that they portrayed the show, introducing the characters, trying to let us see like what kind of family environment she's in, and then especially the fact that her mother seems to know that they have some sort of abilities, and I think what they're playing at is that the mom knows but has always ignored it, even though the grandmother may not have. The grandmother knows that the daughter may also have this ability, so she sends the box of stuff knowing that she sent that bangle to her. And what I think the situation with that is I think that I think she is an Inhuman. And I think that instead of having her get hit with the Terrigen is actually in that bracelet. I think that that's like something that the Kree made that's supposed to give her like the abilities that she has, which is weird because it's not the ability she has in the comic book. In this, they gave her like, she's kind of like, what's her name from Overwatch? Symmetra. She's got like a hard light ability where she can change light into physical substance, and that's what her ability is in this. And in the comic books, it's not. She's actually like a shapeshifter. She can like morph her body into different things. So in this, she kind of does that, oddly enough, but it's all powered by that like hard light capability of some sort. So
yeah, from what I've seen online, a lot of people are upset that they changed her ability from the comics. Like, why couldn't you keep it the same? And and then a lot of people speculated that they didn't want her, like, her ability. She's got like a stretch. Her arm stretches out, and her fist gets huge and can punch people and stuff. But with the introduction of Reed Richards and Doctor Strange, and then with Fantastic Four coming out later, people thought that maybe they wanted to go a different direction and not confuse people. But the writers and the showrunners said, no, that's not the case. We just wanted to do something different, which to me, look, again, I don't read comics for the most part, but I have an affinity for them.
Mm-hmm.
I understand them. I appreciate them. And to me, they're your source material, because without them, you aren't, you're using those names and those characters to create a TV show or a movie. So they're, in a sense, your source material. And when you divert from that, you take away from that, because whatever fans you had there, when they see those changes, they're like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
I've done it myself with different things. So from you to divert that and to dismiss what was already created, it doesn't help your argument and trying to put this character over, because now not only do you have the original fan base going, hey, great, there's a new show. They go from that to going, what did you do to my character?
Right.
That's not the same character. So I don't like the direction that they've gone in that aspect. But
part of what I've seen in the way that they're doing, because again, I've always been mad at them because they started doing it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they would take a what was a mutant ability or an inhuman ability, or however they want to respond to it or refer to it, and turning it into a techno-organic ability. So they would add technology of some sort, and in this case, that tech is the bracer, or is the bracelet, which when she puts it on extends into like a full bracer. They make that the technology that then enhances whatever her ability is. Now, with that said, they still did all of her actual abilities. Like they made the reason for it different and why she has it different, but they still did it because they did do the stretch of her arm.
They did in a way, but I don't think it was necessarily her arm.
Her arm was inside of it.
No. I get that, but I'm thinking that actually was the bracelet itself, like putting or creating an arm to extend out, and it wasn't. Her arm was still there. It just that
It was
whatever
literally
that blue
like
thing was.
they showed her arm inside of the blue thing when it went out, and then it came back to her. So it was her arm that stretched out there. So like they're keeping aspects of it, but they're still making it like it was encased in that hard light, which they gave her the ability to stretch her, to stretch her, whatever. But I think, and again, we only saw like her do two things. Like she reached out, like she fired out the hard light, which won her the contest, obviously. And then and then it destroyed the entire room. But then she used it to like help herself climb up to the window and that kind of thing. So like, I think that they're still going to try to do, like, I wouldn't be surprised if next episode we see her, inflate her hand to punch somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I think that those abilities are still going to be there, but they don't have to explain them, like what her mutant, that she has a mutant ability or that she's an inhuman. This allows them to just say she's been technologically advanced and there's something in her DNA that allows them to do it, because they are still introducing Kree. They've introduced the Kree, and we know the Kree came to Earth and that they stole Earthlings, or they enhanced Earthlings to try to see what they could turn them into. And we know that the Skrull exists. So like all of these things mean that like the Inhuman and what they did to them to create Inhumans is still on the table. It's still something that can be,
which is exactly why I don't understand why,
because they have to explain everything. I think the biggest issue is having to explain the full background of what the Kree dynasty did to humans back billions of years ago, and that's a whole nother story that's just hasn't been broached and they don't want to deal with. Like they didn't even do it with Captain Marvel, who was literally a human that was stolen by a Kree, and they gave it like, oh yeah, we took you and we enhanced you and we turned you into the being that you are now, and then that was end, period, point blank, they're done. They didn't even go into the storyline there, so I don't think they want to go that far. But I'm sorry, what were your thoughts on the episode? But with that being said, in all, I liked the episode. I thought it was something that was done very like campy, like it's not super serious, obviously, but again, I also think that this first episode is just like, hey, here's all the players in the game and here's a little bit of what she can do. So they got it out of the way very early. Like I said, I think that the whole thing with that bracelet is that like her family, the women in her family are all like imbued with some sort of a superpower, but in order for that superpower to manifest, they have to wear that bracelet. And it's not abnormal. I mean, there's lots of people who have, equipment that give them their ability. I mean, look how much more power Thor gets when he's holding Mjolnir, like things like that. And obviously he's a god. It's a little bit of a different story, but yeah, I think that overall, I don't dislike, I think that it's a little too campy, but I think that it's a fun show. I think that they had fun with it. And I think that the character, Kamala Khan's character is portrayed, again, like I said, they changed the way that she's doing that. She's like, to make it timely, she's a YouTuber. I do like that they made her a YouTuber that has no following. Like if you looked at her videos that she made,
hey, we can relate.
Yeah. Man, like when you look at her videos she made, she like had them up for 5 weeks. She had two thumbs up and like 8 watches. That was it, and we can really understand that. But like, I like that they didn't just like, oh yeah, she's a super popular and whatever. Like they didn't go that route with it. So I do like that, that she's just a kid getting through the day, and now she has superpower and I have to figure out what to do with it. And it's very much just like, Miles Morales when he got his powers. Like I have no fucking idea what the hell's going on here, but I'm gonna figure it out, and that's where they're going with that. So I'm okay with it. I think that if I were to give it a grade, I'd probably say it was probably a C+ right now, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Here's my thoughts. Now, I understand as a 44, almost 45-year-old man, I am probably not the target audience.
Correct, you are not. We are not the target audience.
However, that is slightly the problem. I understand that they're wanting to gear more towards teens. And we already know that they're trying to work, like a Young Avengers type thing. So she's probably going to work into that. Mm-hmm. Maybe, I don't know. I think she actually might be in the new Marvels movie as well.
She is.
I would imagine she got the name.
They changed the names for her basically, or because of them, because they changed the name of the movie to the Marvels because it's going to have Photon, Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel in it, because I don't think anybody wanted just another Captain Marvel movie, which is rather interesting to me.
That being said, even though I'm not the target audience, what the MCU has set up in the last, 15, 20 years
Yep.
is that everything is canon. And every time they put out a new show or a new movie, it's going to be linked to either the next one or it's going to have some kind of bearing. And so they get you into this mind state that, oh, they've got a new Marvel show, they've got a new Marvel movie, I've got to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where your problem lies, and when you're gearing this towards strictly teenagers, and specifically teenage girls. That being said, I think you alienate a lot of your audience, and it really downplays this episode in particular. Now, this could change throughout the season. This could change. This is just the first episode. But if they keep it along this route, it seems like it's one of those Nickelodeon or Disney TV shows that is just kind of like they put in humor in there, and they're like taking little bits of the MCU and putting it in there so people go, oh, I know those. Lots of remember berries. And and it's like, and that's what the whole first part of the episode was. She's recounting everything that we've already seen. So it's like, remember this? Yeah, we do. We've sat through those many times. We don't need to be recanted on it. That being said, the actors were all fine. I didn't have an issue with that. But the main problem I had was with the writing. The writing itself, I thought, was Vic and I, before we started recording, I said the only plot to this episode was she wanted to go to AvengerCon. We have, for the entire season, there's only 6 episodes. So you've got 6 episodes to not only establish your main character, but to establish your antagonist. There has not been an antagonist established at all. So now you have 5 episodes
That's
to
not
do
true.
that.
I have to push back on that a little bit.
Okay, you want to say?
One is Zoe is starting out as an antagonist for her because she's the girl who,
it's just the mean girl at school.
Correct, but once again, this is based after a teenage girl, so a mean girl in school is a problem. The other one comes at the end credit scene because the DODC is involved and they're getting ready to go after her.
There was an end credit scene?
Yes.
As soon as the credits came up, I turned it off.
Okay, so there's an end credit scene, and the 2 cops from the DODC, the 2 that interrogated Peter,
yeah,
they got a video of her, and somebody took a video of her when she used her hard light ability. And they're like, who is this? Oh, so there's another one out there, huh? We need to go investigate this. And 2 of them are going after her. So
okay, but that's not an antagonist. They work for the government, probably Shield, maybe Hydra, who knows?
Sword.
But that being said,
I think they work for Sword.
Or Sword, probably so. But regardless, they're not the bad guys. Think about this. You had a show like Stargirl.
Mm-hmm.
Now this was, you had all your characters were all in high school. So again, I'm not technically the demographic, but I watched it and I actually enjoyed it. And the reason being is because not only did you establish the backstory of the staff, what happened in the first episode, but then you flash forward to the current time and you find out that you end up eventually finding out that it's in her house. She is now the owner. She'll eventually be the owner of the staff, and she is now Stargirl, and she has to work through all that. This show didn't do that. Now I realize the show was half the length of what Stargirl was per episode, but and only 6 episodes as opposed to, like, I don't know if it was 20 episodes or whatever Stargirl was for a season. But that's why you need to speed things up. You don't have that time. You need to put these wheels in motion from the very beginning. And I give you an example of how you could have done that. Instead of starting out the way they did with this episode, what they should have done is gone with the backstory of that bracelet. It could have been a 2 or 3 minute scene, and then find out maybe like whoever's using it, maybe it's her grandma, several years, so many years ago, and she's fighting somebody, and she ends up going into hiding from this bad guy, and now he can't find her. And so in order to protect it, she ends up sending it to her granddaughter. And then you go through the rest of this episode, and now you know what that bracelet is. You already know there's an antagonist or a bad guy coming and is going to search that out. And as soon as she does that, he, maybe it sparks something with him, and he's like, he senses it and he knows where to go. And now he spends the next, the rest of the season trying to go after her and get that for the power for him. See, I just made this thing 10 times better, in my opinion.
Literally what the DODC does. So and I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, putting it up front. I understand that's what you're saying, putting it up front. But with that being said, like I said, this episode was literally like an introduction to the character, introduction to the players.
You still could have done all that, though.
But you don't know that that's not still coming, because they still have to explain why that bracer is a problem for her mother, and that as soon as she saw it, she's like, take that, put it upstairs, and get rid of it. So she knows that there's a history behind it, and that is going to be brought up. I'm almost positive that Kamala is going to ask her mom why she's got a problem with this bracer, and the mom is going to give you what you're looking for. They just didn't do it right away. I understand your point, but I'm just saying, like, you can't because the way that this character has to be introduced, and to avoid having to go through a big, long, lengthy background on the character and everything involved with her. I think that this episode was designed to just, here's the characters, here's the players, here's what's going on. And then at the end of it, like I said, when the DODC comes into it, you're saying that they're not an antagonist, but if they're chasing this girl around, just like when in WandaVision, they were after Wanda, like Sword was after Wanda. They were her antagonist the entire time. They were one of the antagonists the entire time. They were causing her problems. This group, DODC, now that they've seen her, they want to find her, find out what's going on with her, bring her in and interrogate her. They are going to be one of the groups that are going to cause her trouble that she's not ready for, thus making them an antagonist in the story.
One of the other problems I had was with the animation. I know you enjoyed it. I didn't care for it. And we talked about this when they released the trailer, and right. I said, I really hope that was just for the trailer and it's not for the show. And you said, well, you like Scott Pilgrim. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But here's the difference between Scott Pilgrim and this. Scott Pilgrim, while that stuff happened in the movie, that was comic accurate, and that is what that character saw. That was how it was portrayed to that character in the comics. So they were kind of doing it lifelike. We've established that the MCU, for all intents and purposes, is reality based, and for her to go to for the animation to happen the way it did, wasn't reality based. And what I mean is, when she was texting with her friend, and her messages would show up like in the street or in the lights. It's like, come on now. I didn't care for it.
I thought that was I think that was one of the better ways that I've seen. There are tons of shows right now out there that will put up a text bubble. Like if they're looking at their phone, it'll just put up the message on the screen.
I'm not
right. And
don't get me wrong.
Good.
Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike it. I don't like it in the MCU that's already been established. If you put this in any other thing, I wouldn't care for it, and I actually think it's pretty creative, but it doesn't fit this.
But it's not meant to be part of the reality. It's just them texting in a way for them to show what they're texting rather than trying to show their phone every time. Like I think it played in well because it gave you, like, this is a very bright, like, lighted kind of story. Like it's got neon, it's got lights all over the place.
There's lots of colors.
So it's a very colorful, like, yeah, it's a good way to put it. It's a very colorful way of expressing the stories. So I don't think that I think that having that in there fits with the way they were doing it. Now, and when you're saying about the reality stuff, and then in Scott Pilgrim, that's her character. Like in the comic books, she daydreams like that, and she does do that. That's actually pretty comic accurate. That's but again, you don't know that because you don't follow the comic book.
Right.
But her daydreaming is a huge part of her, because she like I said, she writes fan fiction, and she basically comes up with these stories about all of this stuff and visualizes all of it. So it is fairly comic book accurate.
Did you have any other thoughts?
No. What if you were to grade the episode A, B, C, or D, or F, or E? What would you grade the episode?
Or E?
Well, I mean,
E is a grade now?
Sorry, F.
Damn! I know I've been out of school for a while. Did they add E too?
I mean, excellent. That's a thing in kindergarten, I think.
It's below an A plus.
Yeah.
I give this again. It's the first episode, so just if I'm just basing it on the one episode, I give it a D plus.
Okay.
Honestly, I didn't care for it. I know I'm not the right demographic for it, but it just felt like a Disney or Nickelodeon show that was including MCU stuff, and it just felt disconnected from the rest of the MCU, even though it was including all the adventure names and stuff. It just didn't feel right to me.
One thing that just came to my head also is you have to keep in mind that this is the first show of its kind. There has been no other show yet that is just about a kid in the MCU.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. Because if you think about it, all the other stuff is about adults.
Right.
And
now,
everybody...
Hold on. People are going to say, but what about Spider-Man? Yes, but think about what they've done with Spider-Man. He is a kid in the MCU that is so established that you don't have to explain Spider-Man. So you can't use that as your pushback, people. That's what my statement isn't true. Mm-hmm. This is the first time that they've introduced a new character into the MCU with no kind of background storyline and that kind of thing. That's literally just about the kid, because Hawkeye was about Hawkeye and a college kid, not a teenager in high school. So I think that this needs to be given that little bit of latitude.
And I think honestly, I think that's the problem too, because now you got adults. I would say a large percentage of the viewers of Marvel movies are adults. Let's be honest. So
they use it to sell toys. So to adults,
they do. I'm not
adults
saying
and kids, but yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I get your point.
But so a majority of them aren't going to care about a teenage kid that has superpowers. Now we had the Runaways. They did that, and it wasn't as bad as this. I think they did a much better job with that than they did this. But they let Runaways run away because they don't even talk about that.
Runaways had a lot more problems in my mind than this one episode has had. The first episode of Runaways, in my opinion, was worse than this. It took Runaways 3 episodes to really get to any kind of real explanation of who they were, what was going on, and then it's kind of revved up from there. So I'm not with you on that as much, but
I think if you want to gear a younger crowd if you want to gear stuff towards a younger crowd with MCU characters, that's fine, but you need to keep them separate from the adult MCU characters. Don't force the adult viewers to watch the younger stuff in order to keep track of what's going on in the MCU as a whole.
I mean, I get that, but I don't think they've done that here. They've just got a girl that's fangirling on Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel wasn't involved in it at all. So far. But that's what I'm saying. It's not. They haven't done any of that yet. And I think
but here's the
if
thing.
They keep it that way, then you're good.
We already talked about how she's going to be probably in the Miss Marvel movies. Correct. So in a way, those adult viewers have to watch this to understand who the hell she is before she shows up in there. Because if she just shows up in there and you go, who the hell is this character? Oh, you mean I got to go back and watch that show in order to find out what's going on with her? That's why I say keep them separate.
Or you
Don't
end up with a
intermix them.
3-hour long movie trying to explain who Miss Marvel is, and you would hate that. You would absolutely hate that.
For certain, but that's the thing I'm trying to explain. Keep the young Avengers and whatnot. Keep them separate from the regular MCU. If the teenagers want to watch that, that's fine. They can incorporate some of the stuff in there, but don't make it to where the people who are watching the main MCU have to watch this.
Take America Chavez out of Captain
No, because I think they did. As much as we don't really know a lot about that character, I think they did what they did with her character in Doctor Strange was certainly fine because it actually fit and helped the plot of that movie. Now, I didn't think the movie was perfect, but it certainly helped. It didn't have that problem. We got a little bit of her backstory, and that's all we really need. We don't need this long 2-hour explanation of their backstory. It's really good because if you start doing that, we're gonna have 1,000 Marvel movies by the time we're dead.
I just don't think that this is. I don't think this is gonna do that. Like I think they like. I don't think you're gonna need to watch this to understand who she is because they're still gonna have to introduce her in that story. I don't think they're gonna be like, Miss Marvel's here. Hey, how you doing? We've already met. I don't think that's what you're gonna have in the movie.
I'm sure somebody from that movie, a character or two from that movie, is going to show up at the end of the season, and take her away, and that's how and that's going to lead to Miss Marvel or the Marvels movie, and then the Marvels movie starts out. They don't have to do any of that explanation, and I've been saying that all along. What DC should be doing. So I'm not saying that they're doing this the wrong way. I'm just saying if you want that backstory, it's here, but you don't have to watch this if you don't want to. It shouldn't be.
I think this first episode.
You shouldn't have to force people to watch it. I think this
first episode would be enough to explain who and what she is, and then jump right into the movie.
That would be fine. I would be totally fine with that. But as it goes right now, you've only got 5 more episodes left to get on with your plot, and what's the point of the whole season?
Well, I mean,
I want to know the plot of the season, not just the episode.
That's what all of them have done. If you look at Hawkeye and if you look at the Hawkeye movie, it's the same thing. Like you have a very short amount of time to tell a full story. The same thing with Moon Knight. You have a short amount of time to tell a full story.
Were there 6 episodes of those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just the framework. These are one shots that are designed to just give you a little bit of background information about these characters. So when they show up in your movie, you're not completely blindsided by the existence of them. Like, where did this guy come from? Who is he? Why is he there? What's he gonna do? Like, if you're interested in that character, you have a way to go back and see who that character is, and that I think is what these little 6 episode one shots are for, and I think that's what this is for. It's that 6 episode one shot that's going to give you the ability to, if you want to come back and see what this character's all about, to understand how they connect to that storyline. Because the movie may be written where it doesn't matter. Like it could be that she's going to be in it, but she's going to have like a very short. I don't know how long America Chavez was in Doctor Strange, but I mean, was she a pivotal part of the entire movie? She was just like a small section of a plot line. So this could be the same exact thing for this, where they've introduced her. Now they're going to have her have something to do with a small portion of the movie long enough, and then it's going to turn into like she's out of there and that's it. So we'll see what it turns into. But right now, like I said, I'm not even 100% with the episode. Like it's a C+ for me because I think that there were enough elements in this for what I know about the character to make me go, they did a pretty good job with it. But again, it's the next couple episodes are going to tell the tale as to how they're going to tell the story of who she really is as a character. So we'll see what happens.
All right, we do want to thank you for watching. On behalf of Vic.
That's me.
I'm Corey. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.
See ya!